to Two Hearts Dance and Yoga's Heart to Heart series. My name is Leanne Barber, owner and movement creator at Two Hearts Dance and Yoga, and it's my pleasure to bring some light of inspiration, especially during this time. It is my pleasure to welcome Caitlin Kelly to our Heart to Heart video series today. I admire Caitlin's energy and loves taking her classes when she lived in the Philadelphia area and taught in the city. Caitlin is not just a yoga teacher. She trains yoga teachers as an ERYT. She teaches many forms of holistic wellness, such as Reiki, wellness retreat programs, and even mala making. She is a school teacher teaching elementary school health and education. So learning and teaching are at the root of Caitlin's practice. Caitlin strives to create a loving and safe space for all of her students. Caitlin's classes are lighthearted and dynamic and are rooted in the philosophy of yin and yang. Having a healthy balance of energy and movement with stillness and calm is the key to remaining steady and balanced on and off the mat, for deepening the connection of mind and body and creating space for healing as well. Caitlin shares these passions with everything that she does, and she is just a light to have here with us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know now that you're living in Montana, things might be a little different now. Can you tell us how things have been recently and how this pandemic is affecting your teaching?
Yeah, Montana's actually been a pretty awesome place to be because it's not as close as it is in Philadelphia. So the cases haven't been too bad. We do have a mask mandate now, which has been okay because, there's not very many people around anyway. And yoga has been kind of strange. We were closed for a while, but we just opened the studios back up. We have to wear masks. Basically, you have to wear a mask until you get to your mat, and then you can take your mask off and practice. But yeah, classes have been kind of slow. We're still trying to figure out what's happening with school. Everything's kind of up in the air, but it's such a beautiful place to be, so it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like seeing the pictures. It just looks like you're in like a postcard.
Even I feel so lucky to live here. It's so nice.
It must be beautiful to be able to kind of connect with nature and kind of tune back in to, just being around, kind of that groundedness and being around, just beautiful landscape all the
Definitely. It's so beautiful. I love it. I do miss Philly, but this is a really nice place to be.
time. Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and just some of your interests while you were growing up.
Yeah. So I grew up in Bucks County, about 45 minutes north of the city, and I was an athlete. I played like every sport you could ever think of, um, and always knew I wanted to be some kind of teacher. And in high school, I went skiing and tore my knee up in a bunch of places, so I had to stop playing tennis for the season. I was on the tennis team in high school, and I was just angry and frustrated and needed some kind of outlet to get my energy out. And my mom she has done Ashtanga yoga since I was little. So she would always go to yoga and I would be like, oh, whatever. So she kept trying to get me to go. And eventually I just gave in and went. I had to go by myself. I didn't want to go with her. I had to do it on my own. Um, and I hated it. It was awful. It was too slow and I didn't sweat and I needed to do something like I usually do. But I just kept going back, fell in love with it, and here we are. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's awesome to hear that, you had like a childhood with yoga in it. I
Yeah.
think a lot of us kind of have found yoga in our like older adult years, but to know that like it came from such an organic place with your mother is really cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
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 So
Growing up, she would like do backflips in the backyard and she'd come home and be like, look what I learned in yoga today. I was like, whatever, that's so weird. But I'm so glad she kept pushing me to do it.
absolutely. And I guess tell us what kind of brought you into practicing yoga yourself and then eventually teaching it.
Yeah. So I started doing it just at a gym, the gym where my mom went. And I did all the power yoga classes because being an athlete, I felt like I had to do something and sweat and work out and build muscle. Um, and I think doing that kind of yoga for so long never really made me less anxious or less angry. I think I always had that kind of buildup of anxious energy that needed to go somewhere. And I think doing the really intense power yoga kind of fueled that. So someone suggested I try a yin class, and I went, and I was like, get me out of here because it was too slow. We held the poses for so long. I just wanted to leave. And I just kept going back. And now that just completely changed my practice. And I started practicing at Yoga Love in Yardley. And I met Julie Samples, who was my teacher. And she kind of helped teach me that there's not just one way to do yoga. You don't just have to come in and do chaturangas and sweat. You can make it your own. And I think once I realized that yoga doesn't have to be this crazy workout, it really does change you, and it can change you if you need certain things. And I just signed up for her program, and 10 years later, I kind of restorative and yin and the cozy yoga is my specialty.
Yeah, I love that you said like you didn't love it at first. There are a lot of people who, they go to yoga one time and they're like, oh, I hate this. I'm not doing
Yeah,
this anymore. But it's so important to kind of understand that it's not just a cookie cutter type of thing.
yeah,
I love, the thing that you mentioned saying that, you continue to come back and you kind of found what it was for you and what it brought out for you. So
yeah.
I guess you can tell us a little bit more about like how you've seen maybe your students do that as well, like, or just kind of that experience of, not just throwing in the towel right away.
Um, well, I think when I first started teaching in Philly, there was kind of this competitive feel to a lot of yoga. Um, and I kind of just gave the students what they wanted to. Like I would teach more of a slow flow, and I had people make little comments like, "Are we gonna start moving anytime soon?" Or they would, say that they wanted more. And but then I had students who would come up to me after class and say, "That's exactly what I needed. Like I needed to just slow down today." And those people kept coming back, and those people brought other people, and then it eventually turned into just my class was just slow and cozy. And I taught a 6 a.m. Friday morning class at Priya Hot Yoga. And it started out as just like a vigorous vinyasa class. And then it turned into just 10 to 15 regulars who wanted to just come and wake up slowly. And it was the best. I loved it. So I think once people learn, or at least start to try something different, or just try to release and try to surrender to, or letting it be okay to be still, it just changes everything. It's so nice.
Right. A lot of that is, surrendering and kind of just letting your body tell you what you need. Um,
Exactly.
I love, that idea. And in sharing this today, I hope that, if there's one thing that anyone takes away from us chatting today, it's that, it's the beauty in kind of finding what works for you and going with
Yeah. And
it.
that's what I try to teach in every class. There's nothing that you have to do here. There's nothing that you have to achieve, as long as you just come and move your body in a way that feels good and you get a little bit of peace. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that, makes your classes so inviting. That kind of drew me to you as a teacher. And I think, that kind of energy just continues to into your classes and make people, see that there's no right and wrong to it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. So you kind of already answered my question about what led you to, teaching yoga. But what would you say your specialty is? About the slow feel, kind of that cozy feel. But what is the vibe of your teaching? And for those especially for those who haven't taken a class with you and are interested in joining?
Yeah. So all my classes are very student based. Like every time I come in, I see how people are feeling, what their energy is like, what they want to work on. Um, like I teach a Sunday morning vinyasa, and I only had 3 people a couple weekends ago, and I asked what they wanted to do, and they just wanted to do restorative. We did restorative instead of vinyasa. So um, I just want I I strive to create an environment where people know that they can just come, and doesn't matter what they look like or what they do or what they're wearing, and they can just do whatever they need. I have one student who comes to every class, whether it's vinyasa, yin, restorative, and she just sets up a little blanket nest in the back and goes to sleep for an hour. And that just made me feel so good that she felt comfortable and she felt safe coming to class and just taking exactly what she needed. Because I think a lot of times, people are intimidated to go to a yoga class or intimidated to do certain things because of what it looks like or what other people might think. So that to me was just, I felt like I've succeeded as a teacher if I made someone comfortable enough to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And I love that so much about you. So thank you for
Oh,
sharing.
thanks.
um, you are an elementary school teacher, and you teach health and physical education. How has your yoga practice influenced your teaching in the school setting?
It has a lot. I mean, when I was teaching at a school in North Philadelphia for 7 years, and the kids came from pretty rough neighborhoods and situations, and had pretty a lot of them had pretty awful home lives, and they would come to school just bunched up and angry, and they would I think they had kind of this fend for yourself attitude where um, they just had to take care of themselves. So they would come into gym and have no idea how to work as a team because they were just used to taking care of themselves, and everything depended on that. So I started bringing in yoga to PE. Just we would start every day with a little yoga warm up just to breathe and kind of center and talk about what to do if this emotion comes up, or what to do if you know you don't agree with something that happens in a game. And it really really helped. It was really awesome. And I did an after school yoga program for grades 1 through 9. And yeah, it was just really nice because I think a lot of kids wouldn't really be exposed to yoga if they didn't have it at school first. um, so I
Absolutely.
Yeah, and even in my discipline, I try to use different philosophies of yoga. Like I have the kids leave whenever they leave the gym, there's a stoplight. And if they did everything that they were supposed to do, they tried hard, they were respectful, they brought their sneakers, they would hit green. And then maybe I had to talk to them once, or maybe they did something that wasn't kind, they would hit yellow. And then if they just had a bad day, maybe they hit someone, maybe they just weren't in it, you know, they would hit red. And then we would talk and say, like, well, what happened today that made you pick red, and like what can we do to work on that. And it really held them accountable and makes them think, you know, this is what I was feeling today, and this is what happened because of it, and this is what I can do next time. So I think I found that a lot more effective than just yelling at a kid.
Absolutely. And I love how, yoga has kind of become a part of some schools' curriculum, and teachers are starting to also just take it upon themselves to bring yoga into the classroom. And I think it's super effective, especially those principles and those values that we can teach through yoga that really, will guide kids through the rest of their lives.
Definitely.
How you said, like, if you lose at a sport or if you lose in a game, how are you going to react? And kind of that energy within the body can be channeled in a different way. And yoga brings that attention to that. So
Yeah.
sharing that, it's really great.
Mm. Yeah.
You have hosted classes with teenage girls on body image and self empowerment. As we know, this is a very important subject, and it's very important and relevant in today's world. It is also something that's heavily discussed in the dance world as well, being a dance teacher. Can you share some of the topics and themes that you have focused on with the subject in your classes and how you continue to carry this out in the future?
Yeah. So I think growing up, we were bombarded with messages that you have to look a certain way and you have to be a certain way. And like I remember reading 17 magazine or one of those, and it said, to keep yourself from finishing your meal, you should just pour water on your food, and then you can't eat it anymore. And I totally believe. I was like 15 years old. I'm like, oh well, it's in this magazine. I guess I should do this too. And um, I think just it caused me a lot of trouble as I got into my 20s, and I just hated myself. And so when I was teaching high school health and PE, I would see these girls just kind of in the same spot that I was and just miserable. So I thought, and now that a lot of my friends are moms and they're coming to me with things that their daughters have been saying, and it's just heartbreaking. So my friend Margaret and I collaborated and we put this workshop together where I would take the girls, she would take the moms, and we just had little discussions. We did yoga, but a lot of the things that we discussed today are social media. So much of, at least in my experience, these teenage girls, so much of their self worth is dependent on how many likes they get, or how many, you know, honestly, how many like teenage boys ask them for nude photos, or, um, we just talked about, how many times have you posted a photo and it didn't get enough likes, so you deleted it, or um, all these girls just using, you know, sending people photos so that they would, you know, feel better about themselves, or it's a really a lot of pressure. We also talked about how um, like what the messages are coming from adults, and so it was just a really good opportunity to see what the girls were going through today, and it was a good way to kind of talk to them about what matters and what doesn't matter, even though it seems like it matters so much right now in the grand scheme of things. You're going to be so much happier by just worrying about yourself and how you're feeling and what you're doing. And yeah, it's kind of hard to explain because there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah.
Um, and I just kind of let the girls talk, and the things that they say are just heartbreaking. So I just try to give them little pieces of information that might help them challenge those things that are coming at them.
Right. And just learning the value of earth and really making sure that you have your own mental wellness and
Mhm.
doesn't matter to, it really doesn't matter if you're comparing yourself to other people. You shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah,
It's unfortunate that we're in this world of like social media and likes and everything like that. The kids are depending on things to kind of fuel like the decisions that they're making.
yeah,
For relevant that had experience in this, and you continue to share those initiatives with everyone that you're coming in contact with because it's so
yeah.
important.
And I think it's so much harder for them because, you know, social media didn't really come out till we were in high school or college. So, but these kids are born with it, and as soon as they can figure out how to use it, that's their life, So it's really really hard to undo some of the stuff that they've learned. But my hope is through these workshops they get even just a little bit of something that they can challenge it with.
Absolutely,
Really
the work that you're doing, it's very very relevant and very very important to the next generation of girls and women and even young men who are
nice.
I, as a dance teacher, it's just, I think dance and kind of yoga and the arts and like just different things where people are, a place of like self-reflection,
Mm,
bring out those kind of negative things. So it's important to always find kind of positive light behind it.
yeah,
So really appreciate all the things that you're doing.
thank you. Mm,
So you offer teacher training in yoga and Reiki. Can you tell us a little bit about how you achieve this level of being able to teach others in their practices?
yeah, that's a good question. I think I got to a point where I was teaching so much, and then people would want to learn more. So I would start offering workshops of the things that I love, like yin and restorative and Reiki. And um, I was just teaching so many workshops. And I loved sharing those things. I was like, I might as well make this into a training because people like it. And when I was thinking about doing a Reiki training, I felt like I wanted permission from my teacher. So I called her and I said, how did you start? How did you start teaching Reiki? Like I feel like I'm ready to start teaching it. I just don't really know where to start, how to create a manual, how to, you know, lead it. And I said, how did you start teaching? And she goes, I just started. I was like, well, guess I'm gonna start then. And so I just put a training together, invited my friends, and they came, and it was awesome. So I just um, the things that I have studied really deeply, I just felt like I had enough knowledge to share it, and people signed up. So I'm just gonna keep doing it.
That's awesome, and that's so inspiring. A lot of times we feel like we need, like, I don't know, some kind of um, assurance or something to, tell us that it's okay to do something. But I love how you kind of just were like, okay, I can do this myself, and I'm just going to put people together, and I'm going to, and you're so passionate about it. So it's just wonderful that this things will come together. And I
Yeah,
hope that by sharing this, maybe that will inspire someone else to teach what they love to do. A lot of times
yeah,
out in this bubble where we feel like we can't do something, or there's something preventing us from doing something. So just taking that step and knowing that you love to do what you're doing and
yeah.
sharing it is just awesome.
And anybody can teach. If you have something that you love to do, you honestly learn so much more about it by teaching it. So even if there's something that you are passionate about or you love, just grab a couple of friends and tell them about it. And then you'll learn so much more. You'll learn how to talk to people about what you do, and yeah, it's
Awesome.
pretty easy.
Very, very good advice. I have
Mhm.
two more questions for you.
Yeah.
Um, I love how you have offered retreats like the Himalaya Institute and Big Sky yoga retreats, just to name a few. I've seen you riding horses and connecting with nature in the mountains. Really amazing stuff. Can you share
Mhm.
what you started offering and what someone could expect from being a part of it?
Yeah. So with the Himalayan Institute retreats, it was kind of the same thing as the Reiki trainings or other yoga trainings. I put together a fun weekend that I thought my friends would enjoy, and they signed up. And with Big Sky Yoga retreats, I went on a retreat in 2013 with my mom. We went out here to Montana, and I just completely fell in love with it. And the owner of Big Sky Yoga retreats, her name is Margaret. Um, I emailed her after the retreat and I said, I just need to come back. I'll be your assistant. I'll volunteer. I'll, you know, do whatever you need, but I just want to come back to Montana. And 7 years later, here I am coming back every year. Um, so yeah, I think starting these yoga retreats and these trainings and all the things that I did, I just kind of said, I'm just going to try it and see what happens. And it worked out. So, but I can see how there's a lot of, um, you know, level of not being sure if you want to bring something to other people. But honestly, just going for it and saying what's the worst that could happen was the best thing I ever did.
Absolutely. It's really, really inspiring. Thank you. And Caitlin, last question for you. What motivates you to keep going even during these challenging times?
I think just enjoying what I do and loving what I do. I think being a teacher is something that just makes me so happy. I always wanted to be a teacher. I just didn't know what kind of teacher, and then um, I went to school for it, teach elementary school, and then I started teaching yoga. And I think it just brings me so much joy to see people um, succeed or at least learn something or feel good in their body. And I think that just what what keeps me going right now. Just knowing that I can help someone feel a little bit better, or yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us on behalf of Two Girls Dance and Yoga. We really appreciate you being here and sharing your journey and just some knowledge with us. Um, we'll learn more about you or maybe take a class virtually or in person.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I have Instagram, CK Yoga, and on my Facebook, just Caitlin Kelly. I don't have a website anymore, but anyone's welcome to message me through social media or email me. I usually post my schedule and my events on there. So,
Wonderful. Well, we look forward to seeing all the wonderful things that you continue to do. And thanks again for being here with us.
yeah, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Yeah.